2020, A New Earth, an Experience Report by Jesus Erlauber, aka Bauchi. It's July and one of the hottest summers we've ever had. The sun is burning down on us, but that doesn't bother us. I'm at the beach with a few friends, and being closer to the water makes the heat bearable. It's more like an invitation to cool ourselves off every now and again and to enjoy the free time that we have. A stress-free holiday where the world seems to be okay and where we are not interested in seeing it any other way. I look over to my friends playing in the water, obviously having fun with each other. Life is great, I think to myself. Why can't it always be like this? I close my eyes and lean back. Give it to me, son. The full load, please. After a while, I open my eyes, still smiling, with the cool breeze caressing my body. I sit up, slightly lightheaded, and look around for my water bottle, which is gone. My bag is missing too. Then I see that my friends aren't there anymore either. Great joke, I think to myself, and stand up. I look around and it slowly dawns on me that something is wrong. Not only are my friends gone, but there isn't anybody on the beach anymore. Even for this beach, which we like as tourists don't know about it, this is strange. The rubbish bins are gone where I threw my banana peel away half an hour ago. Everything around me is so green. Am I dreaming? Is this real? The sun is still burning like earlier, and since the water is still there, I go for a swim. I follow the urge and forget my confusion for a second. However, as I look at the beach and island from the sea, I get a shock. Where am I? I recognize the shape of the mountains, but they look completely different than before. The usual brownish dry summer landscape is now all green. I can see forests that haven't been on the island for centuries. Am I in the past? Have I travelled in time? No, I must be dreaming, but everything seems so real. I slowly swim back to the beach, even though the water is only hip deep, until I can feel the sand tickling my belly. I lie there like an alligator, unmoving while my eyes scan the area. I don't even know what I'm looking for. Some point of reference that explains what I'm seeing that will bring clarity to my definitely confused mind. I don't feel sick or have any fear, and my senses are fully concentrated. I slowly stand up and walk to my towel that's still lying there exactly as I had left it. I cautiously pick it up, almost expecting something to happen. Nothing does, though. It behaves just like any towel would when you pick it up. I throw it over my shoulder and walk towards the parking lot where I hope to find my friends, even though I'm slowly realizing that this isn't a practical joke. I can hardly recognize the parking lot anymore. The space is there, but it's full of plants, and in the middle there is now a fire pit. I walk over and test the ashes, burning my finger in the process. Someone must have been here recently, as some of the ashes are still glowing. Hello? Is anyone here? Hello? I call hesitantly, and then as loud as I can. Again. Hello? Except for a few birds in the trees that flee from my noise, there is no reaction. What's going on here? I ask myself loudly, and as if to answer my question, a seagull squawks overhead. It sounds as if it knows something that I don't. I look up and see it flying to the center of the island, and without a thought, my legs start to move and I start following it. It disappears out of sight, and I leave the parking lot on the path we used to get here an hour ago. The path is also different than it was before. It's still there, but like everything around me, it is much greener. After a few 100 meters, I realize that it's not just sort of greener, but that everything around me is bearing fruits. There are lots of ripe and unripe fruits, and they're all edible. I stop at a blackberry bush that's loaded with fat, ripe berries. I can see that a fig tree is growing out of the middle of the bush. I remember my thirst and the missing water bottle, so I pick and eat some. My God, do they taste good! The fruit juice is flowing soothingly down my throat, and for a moment I forget everything else around me. I didn't know that figs could be so juicy, but they are, sweet and juicy. Slightly captivated, I walk further down the path, then I find myself standing as if rooted. A short distance away, I see a tower, a steel frame with a dome on top of it. I've seen something like this before in videos about Tesla technology, but not in the real world. Then I noticed that the old dilapidated house that lay on the way here, about 200 meters from the tower, wasn't in ruin anymore. On the contrary, it looked great and was lovingly restored, and it seemed to be inhabited. The blinds were shut, but I see the terrace door is open, with a white curtain blowing in the slight breeze. As if magically drawn there, I go over to the house. All around me life is in bloom. Everywhere there are insects buzzing, birds twittering, and crickets chirping, as if they were in a competition with each other. It's quite loud, but at the same time calm and harmonious. I stand on the terrace, about to call hello, when suddenly a woman comes out of the house, sees me, and smiles at me. "Hi, it's nice that you are here. Would you like to drink some lemonade with me? I've just made some." She invites me to a table where some glasses are reflecting in the sun and puts down the jug she carries in her hand. "How can I call you?" she asks in a friendly tone, without any reservation. "Nathan," I reply carefully and look at her directly for the first time. She's about the same age as me, with shoulder-length brown hair and a gentleness in her eyes that takes my breath away. I hardly recognize myself again. Where is the charming tone in my voice, my choice of words, and my self-confidence? I'm normally not shy, but in this moment I would love to crawl into a hole and hide. What's happening here? "Hello, Nathan. I'm very glad that you came by today. The others are around somewhere, and I thought I'd have to sit here and drink my lemonade alone. I'm Samira, and I'm very glad to have you as my guest." She stretches her hand out, and I return the gesture. She pours the lemonade and gives me a glass. Amused and carefree, she looks straight into my eyes. She really seems glad to see me. The lemonade tastes great and stills my thirst, different than the berries and figs earlier. I empty my glass in one go, and she squeaks with joy. "That's a great compliment. Another one?" I gasp for breath and thankfully hold the glass up for her to fill, which she does with a laugh before taking a drink from hers. She's so pretty sitting there, not like a model or a beauty queen, but just simply beautiful. An inner beauty that shines outwards. Again I am captivated and forget all forms of courtesy and can't get a word out of my mouth. She smiles, leans back in her chair, and closes her eyes with pleasure. The corners of her mouth jump a little. Then she says, "You're not from here, are you?" "Well, sort of," I say, "but I don't know where I am." With surprise and interest, she opens her eyes again and looks deeply into mine. I continue. "I know this island, and I've lived here for a few years, but it's completely different to what I remember. Could I be dreaming?" "I don't know. What are you experiencing at the moment?" she asks. I tell her everything that's happened, and she looks at me with wonder. but without judgment. Her look tells me that she is taking me seriously, and she asks me what's different now than it was before. Well, somehow everything is. I realize that I'm on the island, but it's completely different. The first thing I've noticed is that it's so green and lush, something that I don't know at all in the summer here. Then the rubbish bins are gone. The parking lot and the path are green and full of food, and there is a tower back there. How should I put it? An hour or two ago, when I came here, the house was in bad shape. I spoke to my friends about it. It was such a pity that no one was using it and how many nice things could be done with it. Now it's like, well, being in a parallel universe where everything is as it should be. Thoughtfully, but still friendly, she looks at me and then over to the tower. Nathan, which year is it? 2015, as far as I know, I reply, not sure about anything anymore. She looks at me with surprise, thinks for a moment, and says in a soft voice that captivates me again, "My friend, either you have amnesia or you are a time traveler." At the moment we write the year 2020, if we write it, as it's become rather unimportant for us. And with a smile she adds, "Which would you prefer?" Completely puzzled by this information that I would rather not have had added to her "It's not serious, it's either the one or the other" statement, I start searching for answers. I don't have the slightest idea. I don't know what happened, and I don't know how the island has changed so much in 5 years. I think I would like to go home, but it's about 20 kilometers from here. We drove here with a car before, which I can't find anymore. Maybe I can hitch a ride with someone. She looks at me, visibly amused, and I don't see what's so funny. I'm really not in the mood to laugh, and I'm very confused. "Maybe I can help you," she says. "In the last 5 years, a lot has changed, not only on the island, but all over the whole planet. I know something about you that you don't know yet, but I don't want to spoil your fun in finding it out for yourself. I can tell you some things, and then I'll tell you how to get home. Agreed?" "I think so," I answer. Not that I really had a choice. I look at her with interest and curiosity. Samira leans back, takes a deep breath, and starts to explain. "If you've already had the first half of 2015, and it's the middle of July, as I think it is now, then you haven't yet experienced that 2015 was a year of big change for lots of people, especially the second half of the year, which was a great time of change. I'm sure the others will tell you more about what happened, so I'm only going to tell you the essence of it, the changes that seemingly happened overnight. The political situation got dramatically worse back then, and we were facing a big war in Europe and around the world. Most people realized, however, that there wouldn't be a war if we didn't create one. More and more began to ignore the orders from above. They refused their cooperation and began to live their life under their own authority. The internet also helped us to organize ourselves internationally. This way, we could help each other, and we started to act, each their own way, but never alone. We did that which we held for right and sensible. It started on all levels simultaneously. Parents and children came together and started to ignore the compulsory schooling rules. Many people didn't go to work anymore, and the parks and forests were suddenly much more interesting. The life forms around us started becoming more important on a personal level as we were living in dependence on each other. without even noticing the essence of our fellow humans and especially that of animals. Tenants stopped paying their rent, so the owners couldn't pay the banks either. High-ranking bankers resigned from their jobs and showed solidarity. And even politicians started saying things they could identify themselves with and gave up their positions. A good description of what happened is that the people collapsed the pyramid of hierarchy. There were some unrests, but they were no bigger than those before. It was counterbalanced by the peace that became possible, as ever fewer of us were exposed to the permanent stress of the previous system. The extra time we had used for ourselves, we were connected worldwide to each other, and we exchanged ideas so that we could live much better with each other instead of against each other. There was never really any lack, just that some things were not available, and due to the regiment of money, it was unfairly distributed. After a while, the mainstream media couldn't help but change themselves. The problem-oriented programming disappeared and really inspiring solutions were shown. Another very important thing changed. We almost automatically stopped trying to put ourselves above others and humiliating them. At first it was a whisper in the wind, then all of a sudden everybody was talking about it. If we keep on seeing the negative side and occupying ourselves with the inapproachability, weak points and mistakes of others, then we will only suffer ourselves. In a society where we criticize 90% and praise 10% of the time, it's no wonder that life wasn't any fun. Everyone feels unnoticed, and we all have the urge to grow further, but everyone seems to be missing the enthusiasm to do so. If you do your best, but still get most negatively feedback, it takes the fun out of life. Gradually, even the slowest realized that it was caused through our interactions with each other, and that everyone could start doing it differently at any time. So by the end of 2015, life was better for a lot of people because they started acting differently themselves. They started seeing the beauty and goodness in their opposite and started enjoying their lives, as there were no more stressed out people around them, only those that felt comfortable in their presence. They also started to praise more than criticize. It wasn't even that hard to do, especially around the end of the year when the media started to change. And so, something happened that few only dreamt of. We found our way back to each other.